Welcome back to another episode of Obsessed With, the podcast where creatives can come on and rant about their current media obsessions. I'm your host Joey. On this episode I'm joined by Ewan from the band Security Blanket, who's brought an album to share with us. I first met Ewan back in high school because we had the same music class, so I've known him now for a very long time. So it was exciting to share a conversation that we might have had a couple years ago actually. But yeah, I hope you enjoy. Let's get straight into it. For the fourth time, who are you and what do you do?
Hello, I'm Ewan. I'm the singer and guitarist for the band Security Blanket, and I'm very happy to be on the podcast.
Thank you. And do you have anything you'd like to plug as well?
We released a single at the start of the year called 30 Seconds Under, which is out on all sorts of streaming and Bandcamp, preferably.
And what kind of music do you make? If you could describe it in terms of like what other people might know.
I think we're sort of constantly trying to work out what music we're supposed to make. I think indie and post-punk would be sort of the two best descriptors, but those are both very broad genres, so... Cool. You'll have to listen to it.
Yeah, exactly. Going more into the creative process, what's your songwriting process like, especially in a band, and is it different to if you've written music beforehand outside of a band?
I certainly prefer the music I make in a band, because when you're writing by yourself, you sort of have to be self-conscious, because there's no one else to be conscious for you. So working in a band is really good, because if something's good, even if I don't think it's good, I've got someone to tell me it's good, and that feels a lot better. And if something's bad, I won't chase it for too far. I think having two other people around me who really understand what we're going for, you can sort of outsource your self-esteem to other people, which is what we all want. And it allows me to, when I'm writing, obviously I only have to write a third of a song, which is sounds lazy, but once you've sort of got most of the way there, you bring it to a band practice and you hear it with drums and bass, and it becomes a different thing, which is always better than what you had in your head. And it's always a really nice surprise to get that.
When did you start the band and when have you been sort of writing music together?
So we're all final year university students at the moment, and we started sort of near the start of first year. So we've been on for about three years now. Only two of them were really active because we all went away to do jobs for a year last year. But yeah. 2 years, not many songs to show for it because we're perfectionists. But yeah, we've been recording and gigging a bit. I'm pretty happy with where we are, really.
And also, how did that come about? Like, how did you meet up?
We're all on the same course. We're doing music and sound recording together. Me and Gabe, the bass player, we got talking pretty quickly and discovered we liked almost exactly the same music. I felt it would be a real waste to not have a project. And we all came here to record music. All you really want to do is play it outside of work. That's like the best use of time possible, I think, is making something. And that's what we can do. And so we started a group. We were jamming with Will, our drummer, as well. And we found when the three of us got together, we were all doing something slightly different, and we can work with and against each other and sort of find a middle ground that was interesting and we hadn't heard before.
For you personally as well, how did you get into songwriting?
I've been messing around on instruments since I was like 6, and I'm a fairly limited guitar player, I found. So eventually you think, well, you have to start to develop your own style eventually once you run out of other people's music. So I found songwriting has been the best way to continue playing my instrument, because you have to do something with that. It feels a bit pointless otherwise to only pick it up and play what you have in your head. I think getting it down on record is fulfilling.
I know I haven't properly heard you play guitar in ages, but I remember you being like one of the best people I know. So
yeah, among 15-year-olds, I was all right.
Yeah, but like
I've gone off to study music and sound recording, and everyone on the course is an amazing guitar player. Yeah. So you start to feel a little bit small.
Yeah, no, I had exactly the same thing as well. And also, actually going to uni, I didn't actually get that much performance done, which means I'm a lot worse than I was when I was like 16. Not great.
Yeah, I had exactly the same thing. My fingers don't do what they used to, so I've had to find workarounds, and that's sort of been how I've developed.
We kind of talked about the genres that you lean towards when you're writing music with the band. In terms of what inspires you and what you're interested by, what kind of genres and what kind of artists are in your overall zeitgeist? And also, is it different compared to the ones that you are interested in and the ones that you're influenced by?
Yeah, I think we play a lot of what we're influenced by in slightly different ways, which is what makes it interesting. But I think we largely make the music we want to hear, which is a lot of what we already listen to. Mm. So yeah, I think I certainly hear the bands I listen to the most coming out the most in my playing. There's nothing really that I'm listening to that I'm not trying to channel in some way, because I'm a thief. But yeah, there's certainly stuff recently. I mean, in the last year I've been recording classical music all year, so starting to think about it, writing what's formerly pop music with sort of that head on, that's been different over the last year.
Yeah. On your answer, do you reckon recording a new kind of music or like a new genre of music has affected how you write music or how you perceive music now?
Yeah, there's certainly a kind of, if I can go down the recording rabbit hole, there's a huge difference in how it works, sort of the method of it. When you record a pop or a rock song and you go into a studio, you have access to overdubs. You can control the space with a lot of different things, and it doesn't have to be naturalistic. And it can be really close and intimate or really far away. With classical, there's standards in place, and you work within those. So you find a shape that works, and you let the music interact with it by itself. You're static, and the music works within that static space. You as an engineer are static. So I think bringing that idea to rock music is sort of old-fashioned, to not want to change the space you work with in the studio in that way, but also I think it makes you more aware of how you're playing, and you use dynamics and stuff a lot more out of your instrument and out of you as a group, rather than just stepping on your pedals, which we also love to do. I like shoegaze. I'm not shit talking about pedals.
What do you reckon like properly excites you about a project when it's, I mean, your own stuff and also other people's stuff?
I think what I find really exciting is when something's not like, I mean, I love when people just can do a genre well and you're sort of in a style and conforming to that and really do something interesting with it. Like a lot of great rock music, like the early Beatles and stuff, where it's not the crazy experimental things, and they're just that good. They're just amazing songwriters working in that form. But it's really exciting when something isn't that as well, and there's sort of more use of stuff around the music as well as in it, and a sort of intensity, and it's not afraid to break those conventions, which is sort of really cliche to say. I like music that you could get bullied for making.
Fair enough.
Stuff that's sort of embarrassing. I really like the band Shoo Shoo. They certainly make music that you could be picked on for listening to. But something their front person, Jamie Stewart, has said in interviews is about the idea of taking it too far. Wherever you think you should stop, just go a bit beyond into where it's a little ridiculous. I think that's the best way to take risks. Repeat something too many times, or just add something extra that is unnecessary and stupid, and you're telling yourself it's wrong, and it's making the song worse. It's probably making the song better.
And do you find that you do that quite a bit in your own music too?
Yeah, I mean, when we're playing together, a lot of the time we make each other laugh with just dragging something out further than it needs to be.
Sweet.
And often when you get into that space, you can find something completely different, and you think, oh, that's what this was meant to sound like. And we found an extreme of it that we can push down. How
do you know when a form of media, well, in this case we're talking about music, but in general a form of media has really affected you? I think when something gets stuck in your head in a real way, like even a tiny part of it, you can sort of tell when you've latched onto it. Particular lines in songs or melodies that you can walk away from that record or a film or a book or something for days, and there's just one thing that you hold on to. It might be the only good part of it. There's been some terrible films and songs and books that I've read that I've really liked one particular part of. So yeah, I think I often connect obsessively with the minutiae of things. Yeah, that's which makes it hard to write music as a whole. That is actually the end of the main interview section. Do you have anything else that you'd like to say about you, your work, your band, your creative process, what inspires you? I'm going to be sort of boring and selfish and dry and say that I'm mixing a project currently, which will hopefully come out in a few months, for Security Blanket. I've sort of sorted about 3 minutes of it, which I now think sounds acceptable. Also, new Geese record came out today. At time of recording, say 26th of September, Getting Killed by Geese. Everyone needs to listen to Getting Killed by Geese. Okay. It's an incredible record. Right, so let's get straight into the mini presentation of the episode. What are you bringing to the episode today? Today I'm bringing the album 154 or 154 by the band Wire from 1979. It's an album. How would you describe the record in as much or as little words as you'd like to? It's directly indirect. In a way, it makes a point of going the long way around to some things. Wire were a punk band initially, and I'm sort of new to this record in a way. It's a recent obsession. I really love their first album, Pink Flag, which was very punky in sort of a less roundabout, sort of indirect way. But it's very strange to me that they made this as their
their third record. It has an odd way of getting to the point, is how I put it. I mean, I hadn't paid a lot of attention to the lyrics until recently. It uses a lot of sort of precise and scientific sounding language, and a lot of the time it's ultimately saying nothing. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's sort of draws shapes around the ideas and outlines them rather than filling them in. So it leaves a lot to the listener, which is fun. And the music sometimes does that as well. It gets around itself rather than it doesn't tell you. It shows, it doesn't tell. There we go. That's
Fair enough, yeah. Back to their earlier two records. Is the sound also different, or is it just the way that it's presented?
The second record they did, Chairs Missing, was sort of a bridge where they start to bring in synthesizers and sort of less aggressive music. But if you just went from records 1 to 3, you wouldn't think it was the same band. But there are connecting threads as well. The way they sort of play with the structure and form of songs, that was what made Pink Flag so interesting as a punk record, is really pushed very far on 154. The sort of strange uses of language, where they choose to repeat things or not repeat things. And there's still some aggression present on 154, definitely. But it's sort of underhand and it's almost passive-aggressive in a way.
Do you have a brief description of how the album is? How many tracks are there? Is it a kind of conceptual album? Stuff like that.
I've got Wikipedia in front of me.
Well, that works.
So I don't know from memory how many songs there are. There's 13 songs. I don't think it's intentionally a concept record. It's a few different lyricists on it between the 4 band members. There's not one connecting thread, but I think it deals a lot in some of the same themes on it of interpersonal relations managed in a very sort of cold and strange way. And it sort of reserves the romance for songs about maps and trains.
So is that kind of how you would describe how the album's all cohesive? It's the way that it handles the lyrics and the imagery in a cold way.
Yeah, it's certainly very cold. And the moments where it warms up aren't the ones where you'd expect it to. A lot of where it's more guitar based and they play a bit harder, a lot of it feels sort of very close and very uncomfortable and right up in your ear, which is where you'd normally expect them to pull back. And a lot of the quieter songs sound like they're coming from another room. It doesn't try to make an impression. It's sort of, there's a mystery to it. It makes you want to listen harder to it.
Also, is that something you reckon listeners should know before going into it? Do you have any, I don't want to say tips, but tips as to what new listeners should know before going into it?
I think if you've not heard any of their other music, knowing that they were a punk band is certainly interesting, given how far away from that music they get on this album. It's a good album to listen to on a train or a bus or the backseat of a car. It's sort of a series of scenes in some way, some more abstract than others. I sometimes thought it was like walking past pictures in a gallery. It moves past a lot of different things. So yeah, I guess sit back and enjoy it.
Yeah.
You can't look for things in it. You have to wait for it to show its hand slightly. And it's quite hesitant to do that a lot of times. It took me a long time to like it. I thought it was quite
interesting. Yeah. No, I was actually going to ask about that. How has it differed from the first time that you've listened to it to how you would listen to it now?
I think the first time I was listening to it, I was expecting something more like their first album, Pink Flag. I checked, I'd put on the album I thought I had, first of all. It can be swampy. There's a couple of songs in the middle that I'm not even particularly enamored with, that it sort of sits around a little. It's slow and it often feels unmotivated. But I think, again, some of the minutiae of it does such strange things in certain moments that just peek out. You get why sort of all the soup is there for something to emerge out of.
How many more albums do they have after this? And is it kind of similar to what this one is like?
I'm going to show my ignorance here. They took a hiatus after this one and I think came back in the late 80s. And I've not listened to any of their work since then.
Right, fair.
Well, I've sort of dipped in and out of the albums looking for something to grab onto. Really, none of it is as good.
Fair enough.
Frankly,
that makes sense.
They've remained a good and interesting band, but I think the run of first 3 albums is something really, really special. So I've not latched onto anything else. I think they stayed fairly electronic.
Oh, right.
And didn't really go back to the aggressive stuff as much. So I guess this one sort of set the tone for them. I think this one's sort of unique amongst their discography. And I'm not so interested in the ones after it, really.
Yeah, that's fair. Have you seen any live or filmed live performances of it? And is it kind of similar to how it's recorded?
Yeah, I think a while ago I saw their song. I think they maybe did it at Rock Palast. They did Map Reference 41 Degrees North, 93 Degrees West, which is an amazing song title. So I'm doing that live. And that song's got so many sort of strange layers and sounds on it. And it's sort of the most complex thing. It's almost classical in how it's put together. And seeing them do it as a 4-piece punk band, they didn't highlight the bits I expected them to. And it was sort of felt a lot less sharp. I sort of get why they took a break after this one, because the recorded music was pushing so far past, I mean, what technology was available to perform that stuff live. Of course, there's no digital samplers, very limited playback capabilities. So yeah, I skimmed sort of, before coming on here actually, I skimmed one of the live albums from around that time. Yeah. And it seems like after they released this album, they were mostly playing other newer stuff that never got like official release. There were a lot of titles I didn't recognise. So I think that's a big what if they'd stayed together and made that 4th album before the hiatus.
Is the music that they did live but didn't record, is that kind of similar to this album?
I don't think there were really many synths live at all. It's more guitar music, but I assume all of this was at one point, so it's impossible to tell what they might have done with that. Some of it doesn't really feel complete to my ear.
Similarly to the way that they present themselves, do you think there's anything kind of, I don't want to say comparable to other artists, but what kind of fan would you recommend this album to?
I mean, they've certainly been influential to a lot of bands. I mean, R.E.M. did a cover of one of their songs. Elastica completely plagiarised one of their songs. So if you're into either of those bands, I think you almost have a duty to check out Wire. I'm trying to think who else. I read a little book about them, so there's a few quotes. I think Blur, although they never really sounded like Wire, they're more experimental. I think they were often going for the same thing. But I think as like for fans of the thing, maybe more of their contemporaries like Talking Heads, Pere Ubu, Public Image Limited. And on this one, they have quite a... it's not produced by him, but I think they were all sort of acquainted with him, Brian Eno. There's a very Eno-esque bent to this one. So if you like any of his vocal solo stuff, or Roxy music, or the Bowie records he produced, this is definitely a good one.
And also I wanted to ask, was the small book, you know that series where they do
Yes, it was the 33 and a third book on Pink Flag I read. Cool. I don't know if there's one on 154 actually. I'm going to Google that. Yeah, they didn't do 154 by the looks of it. But yeah, I really recommend the Pink Flag one.
Did you learn anything more about Pink Flag from that?
Pink Flag, I think, is a really compelling record. But a lot of the reasons I like it, I sort of couldn't work out why I thought it was so good. Cause it's just a lot of short songs, which in a lot of cases I don't like. But some of the stuff I read in that book was about how they really make a point of starting and stopping songs in a really, really interesting way, because I mean the songs are a pretty normal length on 154, but on Pink Flags they're all like almost all under 3 minutes. Some of them are under 2 minutes, and they're just so disciplined in how they begin and end, and it's always immediate what they're going for, and it's the efficiency is amazing. And a lot of the time they're doing some of the same subject matters as 154 in not such a developed way, but it's it's so efficient. Apart from how it's also like brilliant to listen to, I think from a songwriting perspective, you get a lot out of that book about it, because it formalizes what they're doing a bit more, and you think, okay, it wasn't just like a lot of punk bands, a little flash of genius at the start of a career that went away. It's like this was written very intentionally, very cleverly.
Going back to 154 and new listeners and everything, is there a specific song that you'd recommend to people to get into it, or do you think they should just listen to the whole album as a first experience thing?
Although I love the whole thing, by far and away the best song is the single Map Reference 41 Degrees North and 93 Degrees West. Mm-hmm. It's not as cold as the rest of it. It's one of the ones that's romantic about maps.
Nice.
It's the 11th song out of 13, and it's very different as a single to in the context of the album, because when you listen to it on its own, it's this upbeat and motivated thing, and it's triumphant, and it sort of flies at you. And when it's been preceded by 10 fairly sinister songs, you're more suspicious of it on the album listen. The previous ones leave a bit of not a bad taste, because it's all very enjoyable, but a bitter taste. But as a single, it's incredible. I think between 154 and Chairs Missing and Pink Flag, they were always writing one or two quite poppy songs, almost like to prove that they could. Pink Flag had Ex-Lion Tamer and Mannequin, and 154's got Map Reference, and a couple of non-album singles from shortly after this, Midnight Bahnhof Cafe and Our Swimmer. If you're getting into Wire, there's really interesting ways to do it. There's a slight disco thing on Our Swimmer, which is sort of funny to hear them do, but it works really well for them.
Could you imagine them going into like a more disco-y thing after this? I don't know. What do you reckon would have happened if they kept going?
I don't think I would get that from like the content of this album. Yeah. It's very different. But seeing where a lot of their contemporaries were going, like Joy Division becoming New Order and embracing a lot of that. I mean, even Joy Division, they have some almost disco-y stuff. Love Will Tear Us Apart. The great secret of that song is when you start to hear it as a dance track. Yeah, Talking Heads as well moved into that. I wouldn't have been surprised. I mean, a song like Our Singer, you're surprised by how natural it sounds on them. I think as a lot of big pop trends, as they start to die down and independent or alternative artists start to take them up, that can be an interesting thing. So disco into indie it's some of the best music in the world is disco into indie. So it wouldn't surprise me if they do that.
If this album was recorded nowadays, how do you reckon it would sound different or similar? I
don't like saying it because it makes me sound like a boring old man, but I don't think they would have taken all the risks with some of the sounds on it that they did. There's a lot of things on this album that they jump out in a way that you might consider unpleasant at first, or they're too close, or they're far away, or it's muddy in a way that doesn't sound good, but the sort of murkiness of it is an effect in itself. So I don't know who do that nowadays. I think with the technology it would sound largely the same. Like 154 is an incredible sounding album in terms of the sounds they were making on it, but there's so many odd decisions in the mix there that I really, really love that I don't know if anyone would have thought of it. They're so strange.
Also, kind of on the opposite side of it, how is this album different to other albums of the time or other similar sounding genre-wise albums of the time?
Even though it's quite a dark album in a lot of ways in terms of what some of the songs deal with, or not dark, but sort of it's pessimistic, but it doesn't take itself that seriously. I mean, one of the albums you could compare it to would be like Unknown Pleasures or Closer by Joy Division.
Right.
Closer, sorry, spelled the same. It doesn't get as bogged down with itself. It's almost like a goth rock album in a way, some of 154, but you'd never call it that. It sort of winks at you in some moments. Like I think Radiohead do sort of similar in a way. I mean, they get paid as quite a depressing band, but there's always a sort of knowing smile with Wire that I would imagine influenced Radiohead, that I think made them quite different to their contemporaries. Maybe Public Image Limited would doing a similar thing, but yeah, there's a dark sense of humour on 154 that I quite enjoy. Kind
of similar to summing the album up, if you could describe it in either 1 or 3 words, how would you describe it to someone who hasn't heard it before?
Can I cheat and do something else?
All right.
I was skimming the lyrics before this as well because I'm not super familiar with them.
Yeah.
And I think it's the last line on the last song. It's one of the things where they use quite a specific language to say not very much until you sort of maybe look at it from a different angle. And it's the line, "In between are where only edges can be seen of the spaces," which is such a nothing burger of a line. I hate that phrase. It's a big nothing. But when you sort of twist it, I think it's a good descriptor. Only edges can be seen of the spaces. There's often not a lot in the middle of the songs, but what they do around them and how they dance about the point. So I think that closing lyric would be
a good
the one. Yeah.
If you could describe the album as an object, how would you do that?
There's a thing in mathematics I don't really understand called a Klein bottle, which is like a hypothetical bottle that folds in on itself. So it's like doesn't really have an entrance or an exit, but it's also all entrance and all exit. So that's what this is. If you could make one of them in real life,
it would be
a messed up bottle with no way in or out.
Right. That's quite a fun way of thinking about it. Do you have anything else that you'd like to share, and what do you reckon could entice someone to listen to it?
I think the cover art is very good. I mean, that's one way to entice someone to listen to a record. The strange little wiggly lines and shapes that you can't quite see all of. It's a really good description of how the album sounds. Right. And the title as well is just a number. I think that's sort of intriguing. I think it was the amount of live shows they'd played at the point they made it, but that could be a myth. But that's what I've read. I love the title and I love the cover and all the stuff around it.
And is there any more like visuals or extra stuff that comes with the album as well, or even just like standout live performances that are online?
Oh, I think there's some big deluxe editions. I'm on Wikipedia again now.
Nice.
Yeah, there's all the non-album singles that came after it, and their B-sides are really, really interesting as like an extra thing to this album. Some of it's more immediate, and some of it's miles away and very strange. Yeah, and just Pink Flag and to a lesser extent Chairs Missing and the book about Pink Flag are all great side dishes to this one.
Is there anything else you'd like to share, either about the album or about yourself or what you are currently doing?
So if you're listening, Security Blanket, we have one song out. It's called 30 Seconds Under. Follow us on whatever. We're on Instagram. Maybe we'll release more music.
Cool.
Yeah, cool.
Well, I don't have anything else to say. Yeah, it was really nice having you on.
Oh yeah, it's been lovely. It's nice to get to be a bit weird about something I like.
I know that's the idea of the pod, is because I love being weird about things I like.
Yeah,
and I love it when other people
I think I've said so many insane non sequiturs. That is really how I feel about it.
Yeah, that's fun. It's fun. And that's the episode over. Thank you so much, Ewan, for coming onto the podcast. I can't wait to listen to the album because I think it's going to be really interesting. I've shared Security Blanket's info in the link or description below. Please check them out, especially because they'll have some new music coming out, hopefully eventually. But yeah, that's everything. Please give Obsessed With a follow or a like on whatever platform that you're currently on. That would be brilliant. And yeah, I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.